Hi, Brian, Nico, Dustin, and Mike. It's Harley Quinn Smith, and I'm here to say hello. And thank you so much for watching and liking our movies, Tusk especially, which is the weirdest movie of them all, so thank you. At least one person likes it. You guys have a podcast. Don't go out there. That's awesome. I have a podcast too, and we talk about literally the most random nonsense, and for some reason people listen, so can't wait to listen, and see you later.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin. And they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast. Just want to thank all of our fans and listeners. Really appreciate the support. You guys are awesome. Before we get into tonight's film review, just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on the website. All of our episodes and interviews, if you want to check those out. We've done some incredible interviews in the past. Go check them out there in a specific tab by themselves so you don't have to scroll through hundreds of episodes on Apple or Spotify, etc. We also have our store if you want to grab a shirt, a mouse pad, a hat, all that good stuff. We'd love to see your pictures, rep your favorite podcast. And Shan's Etsy page is also attached if you want to grab a tumbler. All of our social media links are on there as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. And the last thing I want to shout out on our website is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. If you want to support us, help us pay the bills, as we say, or if there's a movie you want us to review, that option is available as well. Just check out our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Also, if you haven't noticed, we've recently joined the Believe Network. So there's some ads on our program now, but if you want ad-free content, go check us out on Blood Donors. The ad-free episodes will be available there. We appreciate your support. We hope you enjoy the episode.
We're continuing on. Actually, we're concluding September month. This has been a fun month, Mike. I know you kind of said this was kind of a last-ditch effort, ran out of ideas thing, but I thought September month was fun. Pick a movie from that month. That's a great idea. Dustin, you got the last pick of September month. Announce your pick.
Brother, it's A24. Hate to tell y'all, because I know that there's one fan in particular, Randy Smith, Go Dogs, that loathes A24 even more than Brian. So I'm just going to keep picking them until I can't pick them anymore. I went to 2014's Tusk. And let me tell you something. When I first watched this movie, I was like, Jesus, I've heard of it, but what the hell is this? It's wild. It's it does make sense, but it's insane. I watched this movie for the first time on, what was the date? February the 3rd of this year. It was one of the first movies that I watched on my A24 watch along. And I enjoy it. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It's Kevin Smith. I have a soft spot for Kevin Smith. And Johnny Depp steals the show in this movie. So I picked it, and I'm not sorry about it.
No need to apologize. We've definitely done worse movies, but I got to admit, I'm not the biggest fan. I think this is a movie you should watch at least once just for the pure shock value. But, it's a lot of dialogue, a lot of talking. And I'm a big Justin Long fan, but he's just kind of obnoxious, which he's that way in a lot of his movies. But he's charming at it. I'm a big fan of Justin Long. I'd love to have him on the show someday. But this movie just has like negative rewatchability on the Madden scale. Like I think I'm pretty much done watching this one. Like, I enjoyed it for the one or two watches I've given it, but that's about it. Not the biggest fan, but it's worth the shock value.
Hey, look, I'm a big Kevin Smith fan as well. I've mentioned that before on the show. I love most of his movies. Sidebar, Clerks 2 is right up there with Waiting as one of the GOAT comedies of all time. But listen, I hate this movie. And to be fair, I hated it before I even knew what A24 was. So this definitely has nothing to do with A24. I just think that this movie sucks. But to be fair, I think the proper way to watch this movie is after consuming many of the marijuanas. And full transparency, I did not partake of the weed, i.e. the Green Goblin. I just made that up. Is that even a slang term for it? I have no idea.
No, but you're saying you didn't make a joint?
I did not make the joint, and so I did not like the movie.
Wow.
Oh, man. Okay. Mixed emotions on the film, right? Because I do think it's a lot of fun to me. Like, I don't you guys find it funny? Not including Halloween 2018, because that really wasn't like a main thematic point of the movie. But we're a podcast doing a movie that's kind of social commentary on podcast guys or podcast people. I thought that was funny. Like, I really do think that's like this version that Justin Long plays is just over the top. I have a podcast, bro, that thinks he's kind of a big deal. I thought that was fun. I agree with you, Nico. The shock value of seeing the Mr. Tusk character was certainly something. And nightmare fuel if you ever caught it in the right moment, which, Brian, you mentioned if you were on the marijuana, perhaps, that would, or even something worse. Shout out to my brother Dustin. We've both been there. Mr. Tusk might catch off guard a little bit if you did that. But all in all, I think it's a fun film. It's not super rewatchable to me. I'm not going to turn it on just for shits and gigs. But I also was not expecting this to be our, what is it? Is this our second appearance of Haley Joel Osment? If so, how funny is that? That's fucking funny.
First of all,
the first movie I gave a 10. Stay tuned to find out.
yeah, I'll be lucky to get half of a 10 out of you. That sounded suspect. But
yeah, it did, buddy.
Come on.
I'm gonna let you hang yourself on that one.
Yeah, hang on. Let's gavel myself.
There you go, bud.
Also, I got to clear the air here. Don't implicate me. Drugs are bad, okay? I've never been on any substances.
Oh, I'll implicate you and me, brother. We're in this together, some might say.
Some might say that.
We would not say that. All right, so anybody got any other thoughts on Tusk? Not necessarily drugs before we begin.
Like being on drugs.
They kind of go hand in hand for sure. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages.
Generation X.
Actually, not children. Don't let them listen to our show. But we are ready for Kevin Smith's 2014 Tusk. So let's get with it. We open up with best friends Wallace Brighton, played by Justin Long, and Teddy, played by Haley Joel Osment, like Mike mentioned, who hosts the popular podcast The Not See Party, Notsee, where they find and mock humiliating viral videos, kind of like a mix of ridiculousness and Tosh.0, but not as good. They focus on a video of someone they call the Kill Bill Kid, who lives in Canada and chopped his leg off by accident with a ninja sword. I just had to ask, was it signed by Randy Jackson? We don't know. But Wallace announces that he will be taking a trip to the great land of Canada, home to Bret the Hitman Hart, William Shatner, Dan Aykroyd, and Michael J. Fox, to interview the kid. After a pretty pointless interaction with the border agent, Wallace finally arrives at the kid's house, only to find that the kid has committed suicide. Pissed that he flew to Canada for nothing because he's an asshole, Wallace decides to stay an extra day and find another person to interview in the bathroom of Bar H, which I'm sure is a shout out to Hall H at Comic-Con that Kevin Smith frequents. But Wallace finds a letter and a handbill above the urinal from someone offering a room in his home for free with the guarantee of hearing a lifetime worth of interesting stories. He gets some instructions from a convenience store clerk, Lily Depp and Harley Quinn Smith, Kevin Smith and Johnny Depp's daughters, and head to the mansion of a retired seaman in a wheelchair named Howard Ho, played by Michael Parks. After a very long conversation, Howard claims to have known Ernest Hemingway and continues to blow his mind, tells Wallace to look to the right of the fireplace to see the incredible aspect.
Yep. Just want to say to all of our Tusk fans, or Dustin, I don't have a ton of notes. Doesn't mean, like he kind of mentioned in another review, I hate the movie or anything, but there's a lot of talking, a lot of dialogue between main characters, so it's not the easiest to take notes on. But, I have some really, really profound review talk to start off. Teddy, played by Haley Joel Osment, looks like Chucky if he grew up and became a podcaster. Justin Long with an outrageous line, I want to know what this kid masturbates to. I don't care the context. It's weird in any context. That was outrageous, brother. I enjoy this humorous conversation between Wallace and the border agent. I thought the border agent had some great one-liners about Canada, their superiority to the USA. Like, that felt real to me. There were a few filming locations for the film. I assume this is North Carolina at the Kill Bill kid's death. I thought the scenery in the background, the autumn leaves, I thought it was beautiful. Rant time. I hate when men's urinals have no privacy. I know I've said that before in the past. Let me keep my little pecker to myself, please, and don't have no people staring at me.
Jesus.
A boot.
Come on, man.
All right, sorry. A boot will never not be funny to me. The northern accents, Canadian accents, they crack me up. Wallace makes a huge mistake off rip. You never drink anything from a stranger's house that's not sealed. No kind of pun intended. I know it's Wallace, but I reached there. Props to Justin Long. I thought he'd done a fine Matthew McConaughey accent. I thought it was really good. These two friends laughing doing their podcast. It reminds me of us doing the show. We have to cut a lot of them, but good times. Decent set of opening scenes. I'm invested so far.
Reminds you of us without the wondering what people are masturbating to little comment there. Also, one last thing that reminds me of Justin Long's cameo in Zack and Miri Made a Porno. How fucking funny is Justin Long in that movie? Jesus Christ, it's hilarious.
He was great in that one.
He was. All right. The Nazi party is funny. Like, that is actually pretty funny. It's at the very least, it's very punny. The humor of this show is right up someone that was a avid Vine user at that time. Like, I feel like this really fits that bill, or that early podcasting period where it was basically just the same thing. You mentioned the border agent, Nico. That is Harley Morenstein, the Epic Mealtime guy, Sauce Boss. Too Much Sauce, YouTuber from back in the day, still doing Epic Mealtime, I guess. I haven't watched it in a long time. But he was funny as hell back then, and he does have some great one-liners here. The can of do's and the can of don'ts, I think, is really fucking funny. And yeah, I mean, listen, if Allie called one of you and told you to stop doing this, would you ignore the call? I don't know, man. I don't think I'd ignore her call. Just saying. I miss pissing in a bar bathroom like this, brother. Got you a little buzz going. That first pee, you're about to break the seal. I don't even give a damn about that privacy. I'm looking up, reading what's on the bulletin boards. That's what I'm talking about. That was a prime time in your life. You have to go back and think. Very fun, nostalgic thoughts on. What I wouldn't have done is drive 2 hours in the Canadian dark ever for any reason. After doing it in Alaska, I can't imagine it being a whole lot better. This is literally the start of a horror movie. I think it's very on the nose, very obvious. We're about to get into scary time. And I think that's kind of fun. Did everything come out all right after he gets done peeing? I think that's a great line by Mr. Old Man here. Sorry, man. Sorry. I have his name later, but
is that his official character name?
That's my hey, buddy. Howard Ho.
Howard
Ho. Hey, man. Sometimes in the midst of these things, you just don't jot that down. This man's adventures feel like Cotton Hill's adventures, though. Totally full of bullshit. Can't be in three places at once at the same time. Not possible.
Cotton Hill killed 50 men.
I was going to say, Howard Ho killed 50 men. That's all I got.
All right. So I meant to say this in the opening, but also the reason I picked this movie, I got a little excited and animated there. The reason I picked this movie, the 10-year anniversary was this month on the 19th, and so I had to do it. But we see off rip that Wallace and Teddy are obnoxious, wild sense of humor, shitty pun with the name of their show, not Sea Party. I get it. It is kind of funny, but at the same time, it's is it? But they do have good chemistry. You could tell it's just two bros broing out on a podcast. He's going to Canada, and Brian, you mentioned Bret Hart, Michael J. Fox, among others. So I'm going to say home of Rachel McAdams, Alicia Cuthbert, and Shania Twain. Yep. I love the interaction with the border agent at the airport. Some really funny dialogue there. We've all touched on that. Hilarious stuff. I like the direction of the story. It's a good way to get where we're going without it being too linear. Have his original plan go awry, fall apart, and he has to find a substitute. So I like that. It makes it much more interesting than he just found this guy on the internet and traveled to his house, because then they'd know where to find him, I guess. The two girl clerks there you mentioned, that's Johnny Depp and Kevin Smith's daughters. That's fun. That's a great little Easter egg for us. And I got to tell you, this motherfucker's weird as fuck. Huge red flags with how oddly he spoke, like he almost spoke in riddles. maybe I'm just a cynic, but like, especially when he offers you tea and he's not even drinking any tea, he just offers it to me. Hell no. Buddy's trying to turn this into a Diddy party. I'd be out. Justin Long visiting the bathroom and turning the doll away from him while he pees. That's based on a story from Kevin Smith's childhood that he told on his podcast. That's fun there that he gets to put real life experiences in his movies. Wallace explaining what a podcast is. Yeah, been there. It's like a radio show, but it's not on the radio. It's on, yeah, have all the time. Old people just don't get it. The Hemingway story was entertaining. Howard definitely does enough intriguing things to lower Wallace's guard. And yeah, I'm interested in the open so far.
Let me ask you guys something real quick before you go, Brian. I do not I'm not the type who brings up, hey, I have a podcast. Is that like really awkward for y'all too? Like when people ask you about it?
Yes.
Yeah,
for me,
yes.
For me, it's because it's so saturated. Like everyone has a podcast, but I don't want to be categorized with everyone. We have something really special that I'm proud of.
We've been here for 5 years.
The Hawk Tua girl does not need a fucking podcast because who gives a fuck what she has to say? I don't want to be categorized with her. Anyway, that's my rant.
You know, it would be cool if we could talk to Justin Long. Go ahead.
Oh, my Lord.
I'd like to talk to Allie, the girlfriend. Anyway.
Woof. All right. After finishing up hearing about Hemingway in the bottle, Wallace asks about what turns out to be a cock of a walrus. Wallace proceeds to pick it up and act like he's jacking it off and having jizz all over his face. Howard proceeds to tell the story about how a walrus whom he named Mr. Tusk rescued him after a shipwreck. During the story, we see Brighton slowly succumbing to whatever poison was in the drink, and he passes out on the floor, during which Howard refers to him as Mr. Tusk, and we fade to black. The next scene's a good one. We open up in a dream or a memory of the day before, where we meet Allie, played by Genesis Rodriguez, giving Wallace a beach, trying to talk him out of going to Canada and make fun of the kid. They have a conversation about how Allie used to love old Wallace and new Wallace is kind of an asshole. And it all concludes with Wallace closing his eyes while Allie finishes the old Pecker Wrecker 2000. Ye old Bavarian creamsicle, as some would say. Go ahead.
Yep. Your kid being right there is just throwing me so off right now. But if I'm Wallace, really? I'm leaving this house immediately. I want nothing to do with someone who collects walrus penis bone. But then again, Wallace, he's stroking it, toting it, having a blast with it. We're dealing with some very odd fellows right now. This is an interesting story Howard is telling, but I see Wallace's body language, his cognition fading. This isn't good. And yep, there it is, passed out on the floor. Say what you will about the film, Justin Long kills it in this movie and every movie that he's an asshole. I think it's a pretty heroic effort on his part, turning the situation with his girlfriend around. Man, I was impressed. You know, like this girl's hating on him, but still got his dick sucked. Shout out to him. I know by the end of this movie, though, Wallace wishes he hadn't gone to Canada and just listened to his girlfriend, though. Good night.
Yeah, sometimes you got to listen to him, brother. This motherfucker's. This set of scene starts by someone grabbing a walrus dick, jacking it off in front of someone else. Man, come on, man. We thought the lighthouse was bad, brother, with the mermaid. This is tough here. What is it with A24, man? Let's go. I know that. I'm just saying. All right.
Tell me about it.
Hey, buddy, I'm still on board. Hashtag A24. Anyway, this dude is telling us such an over-the-top story, but I just feel like it's humorous. Like, it's really humorous up until they, like, start to drop the ominous score in the back. Like, he's telling the most ridiculous story about him and this Mr. Tusk. And then they drop this, like, super spooky, scary score. I just think it's hilarious. And I don't know if it's an intentional horror comedy, but goddamn, it made me laugh. I would get up and leave immediately without taking another sip of tea the minute this man mentioned that a walrus saved him. That is a giant red flag. And I don't mean the one with the maple leaf on it. It is, I am out of there, pal. Buddy, I love that you mentioned the Diddy party in your first set, because here I am. Man drank tea, now he's at a Diddy party. Shake my head. That's literally in my notes. And, you know, and like Nico said, I would have listened to Allie and never went to Canada in the first place. I mean, I would do whatever she said. So sweet, so kind, such a caring soul. Obviously, that's the reason I would do that. This is also like the fifth movie in the last 6 weeks that we've done with all this time jumping. What is it with these non-linear storytelling folks? How about giving me a timeline that's concise and easy to follow where I don't have to do a lot of thinking. I'm tired of this shit, Grandpa. Tired of digging.
That's too damn bad.
I'm tired of this. However, I will get high and watch Winnie the Pooh with her whenever she wants. That's all I got. And I will cry if she wants me to.
I'd have to be on guard again when he starts gushing over walruses, like you said, Mike. Like, I'm out. But Wallace was too preoccupied jacking off the walrus dick. Like, he didn't care what he was talking about. Do you, man? Nico, you mentioned Justin Long's great in every movie that he's a dick and gets what's coming to him. It is funny. Like, this, Barbarian, even It's a Wonderful Knife. Like, he's an asshole and he ends up getting what's coming to him. So that's funny. Wallace starts to doze off, and I really like the first-person look we get with the camera being blurry. I thought that was a great device to show us his effects and just show off some movie-making chops there like that. Howard calling Wallace Mr. Tusk, that's alarming because we don't know necessarily what's going to happen in this movie yet. We know he's drugging him, but he's calling him Mr. Tusk, so oh boy, we're in for a wild one. Decent flashback with Wallace and Allie. It's a good way to show more of his story. And it didn't have to be done in a linear way. This worked because they showed it to us right when he's passing out. Perfect time to show us that. That way we don't have to try and gauge how much time has passed when we catch back up to him. Like they showed us this flashback now. Who knows how long it's been? Could have been a day. Could be a week. I don't know, man. I don't know what to expect in this movie at this point, but I'm invested.
Ooh, good thing, because the next morning Wallace wakes up to find himself strapped into a wheelchair, while Howard sits in a corner in a wheelchair of his own, wiping down the walrus cock and staring into his eyes. Very odd. Howard tells him that a brown recluse had bit him, and a doctor had stepped on his phone and destroyed it. During the conversation, Wallace discovers that his left leg has been amputated, and all of the phones have been removed from the house. Later that evening at dinner, Wallace presses Howard on his true intentions via questions regarding the arachnid assailant and starts yelling, only to be slapped by a walking Howard and told that he intends to fit Wallace into a perfectly constructed walrus costume in an attempt to recreate his savior, Mr. Tusk. To answer the question older than the Sphinx, is man indeed a walrus at heart? We cut to Allie giving a heartfelt speech about cheating on Wallace and Wallace cheating on her to an unknown man we are led to believe is Teddy. We then cut to a flashback conversation between Wallace and Teddy where Wallace admits to having sex with chunky yet sexual fangirls when he's on the road traveling. Teddy asks if he's about to head to Allie's right now, to which he says absolutely. He wants to break one off before he gets on that plane, and Allie is like Xanax, and he can go to bed like a little baby afterwards. Take it on, Nigo.
You know, all this walrus talk, Brian kind of mentioned Dan Aykroyd at the beginning. It reminded me of 50 First Dates when he cracks that joke. You know, walruses have the second biggest penis of mammals. You know, as a first? Me. I thought it was a great line. All right, Howard stroking this bone is very disturbing to start the set of scenes off. I haven't brought it up until now, but Justin Long's mustache, trashy and creepy. Goodness gracious, it was terrifying. Could not imagine waking up and having my whole leg missing. That is traumatizing. But this is a nitpick I do have. After a quick Google search, Canada isn't known for brown recluse spiders. I wish he would have went a different explanation of why the leg needed amputated. I mean, you could have made up anything. I'm not saying there aren't recluse spiders, but if you Google it, brown recluses aren't known to be up there. If I'm Wallace, I'm summoning all the strength in my body that I have left to kick Howard's ass and escape. I don't know how his gut feeling hasn't kicked in that this guy's just lying to him. What a horrific revelation for Wallace. Hearing the plans to be turned into a walrus. Howard, played by Michael Parks, I thought he did a great job playing this maniac. Justin Long has such a great scream, big props, would be a dream guest to have on someday. Yeah. To quote the great Dustin Franklin, a shoulder to cry on turns into a dick to bounce on really quick. Allie having an affair with Wallace's fellow podcast host, that is disgusting, nasty behavior. Wallace, yep. He is a dirtbag of a person. He's not very sympathetic, but these people just kind of suck.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, Justin Long is hilarious in this scene when he's in his wheelchair waking up. He's just like me when I'm too drunk. That's me. Shout out to Dustin for pulling me off of a bathroom floor one time. But even when it's supposed to be serious, I feel like Long is playing it for laughs, or at least that's the way I took it. Look, this guy is a creep, a fucking weirdo. What the hell is he doing here? But he doesn't belong here. Anyway, but my point is, let this be a lesson to all you would-be journalists and podcasters out there. Not every story is worth chasing. You might end up a fucking walrus because this guy was not worth tracking down and finding out his interesting stories. That's also one of the creepiest renditions of Itsy Bitsy Spider I've ever fucking heard in my life. And then he went up and slapped this man when he tried to fight back like it was Will Smith at the Oscars. That's a dated joke for you guys, but that's how it looked to me, man. He's like the dad from the High School Musical episode of South Park. I will slap you so super hard. Anyway, and then he's mocking him, crying or screaming. That shit was hilarious. Howard Ho here, just this fake crying with him. Oh God, it's wonderful. Also, this woman cheating with Haley Joel Osment, man, this guy sees hot ladies all the time. And I know that's not the actual line, but Scary Movie 2 is in there somewhere. Go ahead.
Yeah, entertaining back and forth with Wallace and Howard. Howard's just lying his ass off, and Wallace is still out of it and just going along with it. Both actors killed it. Really great stuff in that set of scenes, or in that scene. Wallace freaking out when he realized his leg was gone was great because he had just said that he doesn't need both legs when talking about the Kill Bill kid. And so be careful what you wish for. And I love how the score intensifies as Wallace is freaking out. Really well done there. The dinner is fucking insane. He starts singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider and then slaps the shit out of Wallace. Wallace has to know he's fucked at this point. Like, if he didn't already realize it, he is absolutely fucked now. And then he reveals his plan, a walrus suit, but maybe he's better off dead. I don't know. Because, maybe he's better off in the walrus suit. I don't know, because his best friend is apparently nailing his girlfriend, but great acting from Genesis Rodriguez in that set of scenes when she's all emotional. And then seeing Wallace and Teddy play foosball, maybe Wallace does deserve all this that's happening to him. Like, he fucking sucks, bragging about cheating on such a beautiful young lady. Genesis, I would never cheat on you, but, well, I'd at least be more secretive about it. Anyway, I'm still invested in the story and entertained by it.
Was it Nico that said everybody sucks in this movie? That is correct. We cut back to Wallace waking up in his wheelchair to his phone ringing. He rolls to it, but he's too late to answer Allie's call. He is, however, able to leave a voicemail, but he doesn't leave her the name of his abductor like a dumbass. He does, in all fairness, tell Teddy his name, however, but has that message cut short when he's knocked the fuck out by Howard. Back at Allie's fuck pad, Allie and Teddy both find the messages left by Teddy. We then cut back to Howard's mansion to see him continue to mutilate and alter Wallace while we hear a backstory where Howard was physically and sexually abused for 5 years, felt like 5 years listening to him tell that story, by a clergy who fostered him. The camera zooms out and we see that he has removed both legs and one arm of Wallace's now while sewing his torso to the only remaining arm. Good God. Now aware that Wallace is in danger, Allie and Teddy call the police on the way to the airport, and we cut back for the last time in this set of scenes to Howard's home, where we see a chained-up Wallace who can only scream and grunt and make walrus sounds, showing that he has been completely sewn into something resembling a walrus suit, where the tusks were made from the tibia bones from Wallace's severed legs. Good God. While Howard continues to ramble on, we see shots of Allie and Teddy searching for Wallace frantically, finally meeting with Detective Garman, not believing the two, and having no record of Howard Ho. He tells them of someone coming and searching for a serial killer and gives the two his number. By the way, sidebar, why are we not tracing his cell phone? Like, it's still on, right? Like, what are we doing here? Go ahead.
I literally wrote that at the end of my notes, but of course, this is his ringtone. It's obnoxious as hell. But fun fact, it's from the Kevin Smith, Ralph Garman podcast, Hollywood Babylon. Another play on words, I guess. It's a fan-made song created using Garman's impression of Al Pacino. I thought that was interesting. All right, what person charges their phone in the bathroom and not right by their bed? Also, send a damn text, Wallace. Call 911. Emergency. Help. Something. Goodness gracious, these guys got no Madden awareness. Nasty word from Teddy, not at least telling Allie he called back. Man, you got to at least care about the man's well-being, right? Like, he hasn't called in 3 days. Like, that's just, I don't know. You can either live as a walrus or nothing at all. God damn. This scene where Allie panics seeing Wallace call just rubs me the wrong way. Concerned about your boyfriend you're actively cheating on. Unreal. Maggie Hart vibes. I'm just kidding. Maggie Hart was innocent. Haunting camera work as Howard speaks, and we get close-up shots of the medical instruments and shots of the walrus and human skeleton pictures. In the leg in the bucket of ice. Oh my God, this scene. And goddamn, seeing Walrus Justin is something you will never forget. Honestly, I would rather just be killed. Do not do this to me. Great screaming by Justin as well. Is very unsettling. I think he does great. And like you mentioned, Brian, why is the detective not at least tracking the phone? If someone calls leaving that scary of a voicemail, why wouldn't you at least track his phone's location? Also, it's an absolute lie that Canada has no serial killers. You ever heard of Robert
Big
Pickton?
facts.
He almost killed 49 people, grinded them up, and fed them to other people. Like, good night. Yeah. He's one of the most infamous serial killers of all time.
That's very true. Very true, Nico. And he ain't the only one either. Look, again, not only do they charge the phone in the bathroom, when you're kind of worried about someone missing, hadn't heard from them in a couple days, why would your phone be on vibrate? You're going to charge your phone in the bathroom and put it on vibrate? Brother, it's almost like you want this motherfucker gone, these fake crocodile tears. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Just throwing that out there. I don't know if I believe you. Look, Howie creeping up behind here is a really good shot. I know it's supposed to have some light fun, but they nailed some of the horror stuff with Howard for sure. My man Teddy, though, is the definition of a side hoe. Because after all the time she's spending with him, she's still worried about her real man after spending the night with Teddy. That is definition of a side hoe, brother. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. Just saying, that's peak side hoe-ness.
Yeah, I'm just saying that proves my point. Just because you cheat doesn't mean you don't love someone. Jesus Christ.
Brother, amen. Not that we're advocating, of course.
I'm just speaking from experience. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. I do feel like this monologue from Howard is a little bit of a waste. I don't really know if I want this guy to be any kind of sympathetic, and I definitely don't think he is. Man, him getting sewn up as a walrus is fucking insane and horrifying. Not something I ever thought I would see. Definitely never needed to see it, but it is. Goddamn, they nailed it. It is seriously fucking disgusting the way that Justin Long looks here as a human walrus. It's terrifying. It's also hilarious. Objectively speaking, this is a funny looking motherfucker now, okay? This is a man with Tusk and a big amorphous blob of a body. It's objectively hilarious. And like you said, Nico, last thing, if I have to live as a walrus or die, I'm thinking die. I don't want to be this walrus fucking creature. No, thank you.
Yeah, first of all, I was just kidding about the whole cheating and love thing. I personally don't advocate or partake.
Well, let me tell you how the real world works, son.
Yeah, I was just saying I don't do that to any potential suitors. But anyway, who the fuck plugs their phone up in another room when they go to bed? I'm glad we all caught that. And if you do that, you keep it on silent. That's insane behavior. And then as big of a piece of shit as Wallace is, Teddy is just as big of one, if not bigger. Not only you nail your best friend's girl, regardless if he deserves it or not, but then you ignore his call when you haven't heard from him in days. Shitty. And now Howard is performing his surgery, and that's why I said in my Letterboxd review that this movie is kind of like the Human Centipede meets Scary Movie. It's uncomfortable. It's gross. It's funny. His stories are very dark, and then we see what he's done to Wallace. Like, what the fuck? I did get a good laugh when Allie is on the phone and she says, it's not cparty.com, and Teddy goes, spell it, and they hung up on her. That shit was funny. Like, yeah, who would have thought that would have backfired? Then we get our first look at the finished product of Mr. Tusk, and yeah, I get why most people would be turned off by this movie, but it's just wildly entertaining to me, especially when they play the voicemail for Detective Garman and he just blows them off. But just like a train wreck, I can't look away from this movie.
We cut back to Mr. Wallace. You want to go with Wallace? It combines the two? Okay, we'll go with that. And Howard, who has now decided that he needs to learn how to swim if he's to become a true walrus, and drags his fucked up looking ass into the water. He sinks to the bottom where he realizes there have been other walrus before, and then we cut away. We then join Allie and Teddy at a diner with an inspector named Guy Lapointe, played by the one and only Mr. John Christopher Depp II. He tells the two that he's been hunting Howard for years, and he knows he is now close. During the conversation, we get a cameo from Kevin Smith's wife, Jennifer. Hey, impressive. He outkicked his coverage, there's no doubt. And continues to reveal the torture and disconfiguration that Wallace will most likely endure, including having his tongue torn out, and has been nicknamed the First Wife. You know, because the first wife doesn't let you go anywhere and apparently doesn't fuck you, as he says. We see a flashback where Guy indeed encountered Howard before and was unable to rescue another victim, Gregory Gumtree. He continues to tell the two that Howard is making a monster, and the next set of scenes is the ending.
Yeah, I don't have a lot here. I don't blame Wallace for screaming, but damn, I am getting pretty damn tired of hearing it, honestly. Scary as hell when Wallace sees another walrus corpse in the water. I thought that was a really good shot. Johnny Depp cameo, great accent, but the man is unrecognizable. Depp, he does steal the scene. Elite actor. He's funny, charming, and describes these horrific deaths so nonchalantly. Not much for me to take notes on, except Depp continues to be funny as he interviews Howard on the porch as this French restaurant music continues playing. Tough set of scenes for me to take notes on, to be honest. And as far as the movie goes, we've seen the horrific. I'm ready to wrap this movie up.
Seriously, this is a fate much worse than death. Like, I cannot imagine anything worse than this. Howard is fucking terrifying here, trying to get my man to swim. That is terrible. That probably looks like Johnny Depp. Like, yeah, it's clearly Johnny Depp, but it also isn't clearly Johnny Depp. That's the only way I can describe it. Just considering the other films he's been in, to get him, I know he's friends with Kevin Smith, but to get him to do this movie with this role is a fucking steal. That's awesome, man. The fact that we got to this movie before we got the secret window cracks me the fuck up, man. You stole my story. Shit, man. I can't believe we're doing this one first. That's insane. I love this show. It's funnier if you've been married a few times. That was a great little like add-on to actually make that joke land. I thought it was really good. And Depp is seriously funny here. Like his comedic timing, whether it's accidental or not, is really good. This whole thing, this whole search for Howard with this like Scooby-Doo like detective work shit is hilarious, man. I was cracking up. Just a lowly homicide detective. All right, man. Honestly, the name Poutine Weenie, is that just like a dick with gravy on it? What's up with that, man? That's kind of weird. Hey, man, that's how I would describe it. Again, I love this set of scenes because of Depp. I think he adds a little bit of even more of a comedic element. I am ready to get through it, but I also I would almost like a weird spinoff movie where Johnny Depp as this character just goes and tries to solve really stupid Canadian crimes, like, you know, who stole my poutine or some shit. I think it'd be hilarious. That's probably offensive to our Canadian listeners. Shout out to our Canadian listeners.
Yeah. I really, and I mean really, hate seeing Mr. Tusk. Like, it's so uncomfortable to look at. If I was Wallace, I would drown myself. It's definitely not worth living life at this point. But then we meet the best character in the movie, Guy Lapointe, played by Johnny Depp, as you said. It's funny, like, he's not even credited in this movie as Johnny Depp. The credits say Guy Lapointe, played by Guy Lapointe. That's funny. And he's hilarious in this movie. Bro poured liquor in his milkshake. God. The flashback to when Guy met Howard was insane, too. So outlandish. I was entertained. The way that Guy kept saying the hockey player Gregory Gumtree made me laugh because he never just said Gregory Gumtree. He never said Gumtree. It was always the hockey player Gregory Gumtree. So funny. I'm ready for the finish, but not because I'm ready for it to be over, but because I can't wait to see how much more absurd it gets.
I am ready for it to be over, my friend. Back at the Tusk Cave, Howard continues with the conditioning of Mr. Wallace while singing a song called My Love and I. He then realizes that Mr. Tusk must be hungry and leaves a mackerel for him, leaves the room, and then watches through a porthole in the door as Wallace goes to the fish. We cut back to the convenience store, and the three eventually are able to find Howard's address through the two clerks whom Wallace had annoyed earlier and wrote the address on a pad of paper. Back at Howard's torture house, he is in the water with Mr. Tusk, naked and helping him swim. During the fucked up night at Diddy's, he reveals that shortly before being rescued, he had killed and eaten Mr. Tusk 6 months after living on the island and was overcome with guilt. He devoted himself to hunting victims to turn into his beloved savior for the past 15 years in an attempt to relive their last day and give Mr. Tusk another chance at survival. This is accomplished by Howard dressing up in another walrus outfit, and the two become engaged in something sort of resembling a fight. A fight that ends with Wallace angrily impaling Howard on his tusks as Allie and Teddy enter the room to rescue Wallace. Guy enters the room and points the shotgun at Wallace, but we cut to 1 year later as Wallace, still sewn to the fucking walrus suit apparently, lives in a wildlife sanctuary. All right. Allie and Teddy visit him and feed him a mackerel, and the movie ends with Wallace telling him she still loves him before walking off crying. Tears run down Wallace's face, and in a pretty pointless after-credit scene, we see Guy sitting on a riverbank rambling on about sliders.
Dustin, when we get done with your scene-by-scene analysis, I want to ask you guys a question. Howard casually sitting by this monstrosity he created, this is a sick fuck. A part of me thinks the walrus prosthetics look good. Another part of me thinks it's an obvious suit. I'm curious to hear how you guys think about it, because a part of me thinks like, yeah, this looks pretty good. Then I was like, no, it looks kind of shitty. Howard, I have to reiterate how weird this fella is. And yeah, the suit is looking a little flimsy after Justin emerges from being drowned briefly. Walrus fight scene between the two men. This my next statement might make Brian cringe, but I need to say it. I like weird movies, but I feel like they got to have some substance. Make me think. Two men dressed as walruses fighting is just dumb. Question, if Wallace has no leg and his arm area sewn together, how was he able to crawl so fast? Did I miss something here? Is he hyped up on HGH? I don't know. Allie and Teddy, they walk in and view the most bizarre thing that I can ever think of. Maybe the human centipede might be worse, but this walrus is pretty bad. 1 year later, and your ex-girl and fellow podcast host who is smashing her now come visit with a fish to feed you. Oh, okay, goddamn. I like this end line from Allie. It's good to cry. It separates us from the animals. It shows you have a soul. Flashing back, looking at Walrus Wallace. Whew. Seriously, though, it's hard for me to take her tears and I love you seriously. Seeing and hearing a walrus moaning, like, I just can't take it seriously. At the end of the credits, hearing the seagulls, all I could think was, man, I wish I was watching Robert Eggers' 2019 masterpiece, The Lighthouse. Let's
go. Both have weird human-animal hybrids that want to have sex. But it's all weird, man. Howard's snuggling with this Justin Long walrus is top 5 most ridiculous things we've covered on this show. It's not even close. This is so ridiculous.
Is it more ridiculous than giant attic penis?
No, but okay. It's top 5, sure. I'm not gonna lie. Watching him waddle and try to eat this fish is hilarious. I couldn't, like you said, I couldn't take it seriously. Shout out to there being a Degrassi reference, which I knew there would be. Kevin Smith is also a recurring character on Degrassi: The Next Generation, so that doesn't shock me at all. Hashtag thanks when responding to someone. What a douchebag. God, hashtag thanks. What a podcast, bro. I would never do something like that. Hashtag thanks. I love that they're just making fun of him in the most Canadian way possible. The Big Lebowski reference, I appreciate that. I put it here because I've been waiting on this part. This is so fucking weird, guys. Like, we've done giant attic penis. We've done mermaid masturbation scenes. Like, this is so fucking uncomfortable to watch. Seeing him swim naked with Justin Long Walrus is, quite frankly, just, God, it's hard to keep looking at. These two as walruses or walrus eye fighting each other, Jesus Christ, man. I'm not sure I would even fight him. I would just let him kill me. I'm dead. Just kill me with your Tusk or walrus dick or whatever you're trying to kill me with. Just kill me. Hey, man, I'm just come on, man. Anyway, and then these two show up like they want to save me. Come to find out they're fucking. I don't want to see these two either. Just end me, man. Not only am I walrus, now That's not suspect. Don't gabble me for in me. Come on.
I thought you said enter. That's my fault.
No.
I did.
Look, this is a pretty cool kill with the Tusk. I thought that was a solid kill. Manitoba's exotic animal sanctuary. Laugh my ass off, man. Jesus, what a just sad existence, man. It's supposed to be sad, but it's just so ridiculous. I like this Kevin Smith interview describing about the third act of the film over the credits, and then the post credit scene is pointless, but the second slider shouldn't have got the second slider. I thought that was funny because I love Depp's character for sure. So as a comedy, this movie works for me. As a horror comedy, I'm going to have to judge it based on that. That's all I'm going to say.
It's fair. Great transition when we hear Guy talking about Howard and us seeing Mr. Tusk in the reflection. And then as if Mr. Tusk wasn't grotesque enough, him eating a raw fish, that's just fucking nasty. We get an extended look at Wallace in the convenience store, and yeah, he sucked. I did think it was funny seeing how much maple syrup was behind the counter. Like, I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but it's like as if this movie hasn't made enough, fun jabs at Canada. There's an endless supply of maple syrup behind the counter. And I'm sorry, but I love Johnny Depp in this movie. Like when Teddy said that they did it in The Big Lebowski, and he says, that's exactly where I learned it. Isn't that weird? Like I laughed my ass off. Shit was funny. The flashback to young Howard was pretty bad here, though. Like his fake beard and wig looked awful. I did not like that at all. And even black and white couldn't hide it. And then shit gets even more weird. Howard has a walrus suit on and challenges Mr. Tusk to a fight. Okay, Kevin Smith, you lost me a little bit there. That's weird even by this movie standards. Some really good cinematography and editing when Allie and Teddy get to the house. Their shots feel like a throwback action movie. I thought that was cool. Side note, this is the second movie I've watched in the last few weeks where they make a comment about how rare it is to find Americans who don't like guns. I believe Speak No Evil was the other one. I'm not 100% on that. Nico, don't they do that in that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When they're hunting for foxes or whatever.
Yeah. I couldn't remember exactly the movie, but yeah, that's it. Then when they finally found him, look, I know they were having an affair, but they did still care about him at least a little. Imagine how badly that would fuck you up. Like seeing your best friend or significant other having been turned into a fucking walrus, regardless if you don't really love the person or not. That's got to be mentally scarring. But the most absurd thing about the movie is that it's a year later and Wallace is still living as a walrus.
Well, that's what I was just about to ask. Like, what the fuck? Like, why is he still a walrus? Like, at least acting like one.
I would rather die. But not only that, like he's living in an outdoor enclosure and eating raw fish. Like he's still human. There's no need for this. LMAO, I wrote. Good usage of the flashback and talking about crying shows that he's not an animal, which furthers my point. So I don't know. And then, Mike, you mentioned the hearing Kevin Smith talk about it. That's actually from his podcast, which is called Smodcast, where he's talking about the movie's ending and the end credits there. It's awesome. It makes the whole thing make sense, I guess, at least. Like, Wallace is so fucked in the head that now he can't go back. He can never be human again. I laughed hearing Kevin Smith talk about it because you could tell he was high as a kite. He was laughing. He was having a good time. And then, we get, just enough, just one more brief, funny moment from Guy Lapointe. Just had to have that second slider. Like, okay, send us out with my guy Guy. Side note, I had no idea until this week that this is the first movie in a trilogy. Like, the second one is called Yoga Hosers, and it stars Lily Rose Depp and Harley Quinn Smith, like the two clerks there, and Guy Lapointe's in it. And I'm definitely going to have to find that one. And then the third movie is called Moose Jaws, which I don't believe has actually been released. It's in development, it says. And the premise says, like Jaws, but with a moose. So can't wait to review those movies with you guys eventually.
I'm sure you'll pick them.
He calls it the Canadian trilogy or whatever. And I've never seen Yoga Hosers, but Kevin Smith even thinks it's terrible from what I understand. And Moose Jaws, like, he's done smoking weed, apparently. He's stopped. So I can't even imagine he'll ever make that movie, because that sounds like a great idea when you're high, and that's about it.
It says it's in development. So to me, I think the shooting has been done. Maybe it's just not edited.
Yeah.
I hope it gets released. I've got to watch it. I love Kevin Smith.
Dustin, before we get into the social media, I wanted to ask, I couldn't find it like in IMDb trivia, but what the hell inspired this movie for him? Do you know?
No fucking
Like,
clue.
where?
Now, he talked about this movie on his podcast, Smodcast. So I've never listened to his podcast. It's a weekly podcast. I'm going to go and try to find when he was coming up, when he was conceiving this idea, because I think it had to be he was as high as balls.
Yeah.
And
Bro.
it had to be that he was high as fuck watching the Human Centipede. Like, how could it not be?
Yeah. I would not be surprised if that was the inspiration.
I've actually listened to a ton of Kevin Smith podcasts. I've never heard him refer to this movie in anything except like joking. So I don't really know. I think he knows it wasn't very well received. But, and shout out to Matt for telling me this story because he listens very religiously to the Kevin Smith podcast. And I kind of told you guys off air too. But during Zach and Miriam Make a Porno, Seth Rogen is the one that introduced him to weed. And you can kind of tell, like, the first half of the movie is one way, and the second half, it almost is like, okay, well, and then from then on, he's been hooked on weed for, like, and a very big advocate of it for years and years and years, and just now stopped. I don't know. You gotta, I don't know.
So, a couple things here. Number one, I'm not a fan of the marijuanas, but I have done it a couple times. A couple might be short selling it, but there's no strain that I've ever put to my lips that would make me come up with a fucked up idea like this ever. And
definitely more marijuana, brother.
And second of all, I told you this in the chat today, and I'm going to say it on air. I'm not buying his bullshit story about he just started smoking weed with Seth Rogen on Zach and Miri. No, I'm not buying it. People lie on podcasts all the time. Of course, he may say that to uphold an image, like maybe he doesn't want certain people to know that he used to smoke weed. Bullshit. Some of the humor in the Clerks movie, in the Clerks universe, that's weed humor, man. You can't convince me otherwise. Which, shout out to Clerks. I mean, Clerks is one of the top 5 funniest movies ever made.
Dude, it's fucking hilarious. Also, Jason Mewes definitely smoked pot, so I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
We know, Nico.
I cannot believe you, Nico.
All right, let's jump into our social media comments and questions. I'll do Instagram. Shout out to Jay-Z, Jordan Zeger. He said, so nice of you to pick this one, D and Frank, with the sideways laughing emoji. And Dustin said he's a man of the people, and your service is appreciated. And we got one more comment, sickface _ chill. Bro, Tusk was one of those movies that gave me such an unpleasant feeling of nausea and loss. I don't think I could handle watching again with laughing emojis. I get it. It's very, very weird. Very weird.
All right, I've got X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, pulled up. Sean the Glee Man, the Poet Sloth, said, there are few fates worse in a horror movie than this one. Audition, for example. Decent enough movie for how ridiculous the concept is. You know, Sean, I've always thought that we're a lot alike. I like that comment. Good job. Andrew Ferguson said, happy anniversary, fellas. We appreciate that. Whatever weed Kevin Smith started smoking when he sat down to write this steaming pile of shit needs to be used by the military against their enemies. That's a little harsh. And then Ben Goosen commented and said, if you could have any different director, doesn't have to be horror director, direct this movie, who would you each choose? I'll start us off by saying Ari Aster, because if there's one person who can make this movie more absurd, it's Ari Aster.
Yeah, we might as well. We'd actually show the cum dripping down from the fucking walrus tusks. That's what we would show on. If
hey, don't steal Robert Eggers' thunder. He did that.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Same person.
Same person. But no, in all seriousness, for me, no one. Kevin Smith's the man. Big fan. I'd love to have him on the show to talk about this and the rest of his movies. So,
absolutely,
Kevin
Smith. Yes,
for sure.
All right,
Brian, you got the Book of Faces?
I do. Nick Mathis. We got a lot on Book of Faces, most in a long time. Nick Mathis. Oh, good luck. I hate this movie. And Julia Craviera said, I second that. Joe Swinford, legendary blood donor herself. She needs to get back in the swing of things, I think. Her response was, "Yikes." Amber George, worth watching? Someone from the Don't Go Out There horror movie podcast replied that I think so. At least one watch. It's very bizarre. LOL. And Amber George replied, noted. Giuseppe Clayton, Tusk is a masterpiece. Look, this is another Dustin burner. You're fooling no one, Dustin. Tusk is a masterpiece. Red State is another good Smith horror flick.
I'll pick it, brother, just for you.
Lord,
Shout out to Giuseppe.
That's Clayton.
I'm
That's
not
Clayton
Giuseppe.
J. Former blood donor Clayton J.
Oh.
Instead of a made up person.
Oh, yeah. I've always heard his name's Clayton J. Yeah, that's definitely not my burner. You have me convinced I made that burner.
Yeah, and apparently Earth is flat. Shout out to Russ Cole. Y'all got any fun facts you want to share?
I do indeed.
I bet you
All
got a laundry list of them.
Go ahead, brother.
Oh, let me take a deep breath here. Quentin Tarantino. Oh, this one's just for Mike. Quentin Tarantino was offered the role of Guy Lapointe, but turned it
I
down.
would have been so pissed.
Turned it down, saying that he dug the script and, quote, couldn't wait to watch Michael Parks let loose his internal kraken. Kevin Smith said in an interview that Tarantino thought that he was being offered the role of Wallace, not Guy Lapointe, and that's why he turned it down, which led to Johnny Depp being cast. That's funny as hell.
I'm glad that Quentin Tarantino misunderstood, but doesn't shock me. Great director, though.
So, Yoga Hosers, which I mentioned earlier, is the second installment in this trilogy. It's based on Smodcast episode 288. So if you want to go back and listen to that to hear more about that movie, I plan to. According to Kevin Smith, most of the budget was used to obtain the rights to the song Tusk by Fleetwood Mac. That's funny. Smith told his Twitter followers to tweet #WalrusYes if they wanted to see their hypothetical turned into a film, or #WalrusNo if they didn't. And the coolest thing I think I've ever seen is most of the people said yes, so the movie did get made. And then I don't know if you guys noticed it, but in the credits there, he tweeted the handles of everyone who used that hashtag. So like that would have been cool. I wish I would have known about it and used that hashtag because my Twitter handle would be up on the screen there. That's cool as hell. Shout out to him. More filmmakers should do that. This is hilarious and impressive. Depp improvised most of his lines for this movie, which makes the hockey player Gregory Gumtree even funnier to me.
That was poutine weenie. That's fantastic.
Brian, you'll like this one. Greg Nicotero was the first choice to create the special effects, particularly the walrus suit. Smith states on Smodcast episode 259 that he knows how much Nicotero loves the movie Jaws, to the point that Nicotero even constructed a real 25-foot replica of the shark Bruce in real life for fun, and would jump at the chance to create something similar. But Nicotero had to turn it down due to his commitments with The Walking Dead, and recommended his friend and former partner, Robert Kurtzman. And then the last one that I've got, Justin Long's in this movie, of course. He was in Veronica Mars with Kristen Bell, who was in Scream 4 with David Arquette. Suck it. Got it in.
All right, I only have two now. This movie was shot in just 15 days. And in this film, there's a character named the Kill Bill Kid. The character Howard Ho is played by Michael Parks, who was also in both of Tarantino's Kill Bill films.
Nice.
Okay. The movie Tusk was made for $3 million and grossed $1.8 million at the box office. They don't know what they were missing, fellas. They don't know what they were missing.
Dude,
It does have a cult following, though. It does have a cult following.
As it should.
Listen. Could you imagine seeing this at the theater?
No.
Well, I wish I did.
Like Bo's Afraid, I bet, was like insane.
It was.
Giant attic penis on an IMAX screen. Holy moly.
Dude, I will never
No, thank
forget my shock when I saw that giant attic penis on that humongous screen. Like, I didn't see an IMAX, thank God, because I may have fallen ill at the sight of that giant dick, but this movie would be insane.
Let's jump into our favorite kill, least favorite kill in the rating. I don't know if I really have a favorite kill and least favorite kill. I'll just go with my favorite was Howard getting tusked to death. Is there even any other kills? I'll just go with Justin Long. He might as well just be dead. Like, that's a horrible way to end up. listen, I think the movie is worth at least one watch just so you can say you saw it. It's one of those horror movies where I would recommend you watch it once just for the shock factor. But it's just not very rewatchable at all. A lot of the dialogue just runs on and on and on. And once you finally see Justin as the walrus, like all the shock factor is gone, then it just gets kind of ridiculous. Not a huge fan. Don't think it's terrible. I'll just give it a flat 6. Worth one watch, but that's it.
All right. I'll go ahead and go as well. I don't have a least favorite kill. I guess favorite kill is Howard because it was the most look at we got one. I mean, you could go with least favorite be the guy that he tried this on before that drowned. I don't know.
Right.
Rating. Look, like I said, I watched this for the first time February 3rd, and it's so damn bizarre that I can't help but be entertained. Add in some of my bias because I love Kevin Smith and I love Johnny Depp, and yeah, I do not hate it at all. I get some laughs from it, and I commend it for taking bold chances. That being said, it's not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's entertaining as hell, so my score is also a 6.
I'm not even going to pick favorite kill, least favorite kill. I agree with Dustin. And I'm sorry, I'm just not the biggest fan of this. I, too, love Kevin Smith and Johnny Depp, but sorry, Kevin Smith still would love to have you on this pod, like we've mentioned a million times. Check your DMs, by the way, but plug your ears during this next part because I gave this movie a 2.75.
Hey, that's better than I expected. So
holy shnikes, brother. My favorite kill was Howard being tusked to death. I didn't really have a least favorite kill. Look, this movie's fucking hilarious. If I view this movie as a straight comedy, it would have a much higher rating. But we are doing a horror podcast, and while there's some horrifying elements to the film, like being turned into a fucking walrus and me having to see that process, very horrifying. But it almost leaned too far into the comedy for me, just a little bit. I think you get what I'm saying. I love Kevin Smith, love Johnny Depp, especially in this role. I think Justin Long is great, but yeah, it's not a great film. It's a fun film, but it is not a great film. I went ahead and gave it a 6 as well.
Okay, I will take that. That gives us a composite score of 5.1875. IMDb has it at a 5.4. And Rotten Tomatoes, if I were to ask you which movie's higher on Rotten Tomatoes, Tusk or The Bone Collector, what do you think?
They got Tusk higher, don't they?
Baby, 46%. Let's go.
I want to know why you said you'd take 6. Anyway.
Oh, come on, bro.
Hey, listen, it's not my favorite movie, but it was a fun review. Like, it was good to revisit it for once. Any final thoughts before we shout out our blood donors? And Brian can announce his pick for next week when we kick off October and spooky season. All right, it was fun. Our Almost Friday pick's definitely got to be a walrus picture, I think. Legendary blood donor Dana Tucker 4 times. Really appreciate you. We got one more. Actually, we got 2 more reviews of hers to do. Camper level reoccurring Nina, the Horror Movie Crew podcast. Alex Seligson, Steve Schmidt, and Michelle Mirza. Camp Council recurring Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, Adrian Aiello, Brian Samick, Andrew Ferguson, Brooke Maley, Thorne David Phillips, Heather Superdoc, Jennifer Davis from the Too Close to Home Pod, Dana Tucker again, Cole McAlexander, and Max K. Really appreciate y'all. Y'all do really take a big burden off of us, help us pay the bills. It means a lot to us. Next week, we're going to be in October, spooky season. If we're able to record next week, if we don't get Jason loved by this hurricane.
Oh my God.
Brian, you want to announce your pick to kick off spooky season?
I'm trying to get over the Jason Love comment. But, yeah, I picked a movie that I thought for a long time that we had already reviewed, but we have not upon further review. We have not. So we are going back to the Conjuring universe, and we will do The Nun.
All right, buddy. I know a Jason Love joke. Hate to see Nico coming. Anyway.
Thanks for listening. Y'all have a good one.
Just want to remind everybody